Hey everyone, welcome to another video in World Watercolor Month series, and today we are going to play with Ultramarine Pink, which is a color I really enjoy. I discovered it when I curated my spring palette. I had it in my stash for several years. The one I have is by M. Graham and it's lovely. And yeah, it was kind of lying in my stash, and I was mostly using other pinks and violets, and then for the spring palette I decided to include it, and I'm so glad that I did because it's just a wonderful color. If you want to see how it mixes with other colors, then check out my violet and purple mixes. I think I included it in that one or maybe it was in the pinks. I'll check which one, and I'll link it somewhere here on the top right corner for you. So for this one I decided to kind of switch gears a little bit and attempt a different shape of a flower. I was mostly doing kind of rose-like blooms in this series, and I decided to go for something that reminds me a bit more of hibiscus flower. Very loose interpretation, but that was kind of what I had in mind as I was painting this. And yeah, I really had a lot of fun. I kind of kept this one quite minimalistic, I would say. And that's another thing that I'm really enjoying about this. I feel like I can almost leave things a little bit undone because this is just, playtime, a place to try out different ideas, different color combinations. And yeah, so I don't have to finish everything, or I can just stop whenever I want to. So after talking in the previous video about, not using a pencil and maybe using my dagger brush, which I love, I decided to actually do that. And before I grabbed a pencil, I actually added some, you can see some line work with this dagger brush, which I love, and it's linked down below. So the colors that I decided to pair with the ultramarine pink is the zoisite and a little bit of white, a touch of green gold or yellow green, and then at the very end I'm going to add a little bit of lunar black. I really like this color story, and I'm kind of contemplating which other colors I could add here just to get a little bit more pop. Oh, and I also used this, I think this is called Warm Gray, the one I'm dipping into right now from Serie. It's definitely by Serie. I'm not sure about the name, but it's very similar to Buff Titanium or Titan Buff. I don't know, depends on the brand. Very similar. It's just, I really like the tone of it. It has a little bit of a warmth to it. It's kind of like a very light, dusty taupe color, and I love taupe. So yeah, I added that one also, and I really think that this kind of color story where there's one main vibrant, more saturated color and then everything around it is calmer, less saturated, neutral, I think it works really well, and I enjoyed painting with this color story. And I think another important thing to remember that can be helpful in creating a more harmonious painting is, if you can stay in a limited color palette, sometimes it does serve the painting really well. So for example, here I knew at some point I wanted to add some dark colors, and I will go back and add some lunar black at the end. But for the center of the flowers, what I did was I basically mixed all the colors that I was using till now. So I have a dark, I have the zoisite, it's a dark green. And then I have my main color, the ultramarine pink, which is not a super dark color, but it does have, it's kind of a mid-value, I would say. So I mixed those two, and that gave me a really interesting and lovely color to add to the centers of the flowers. And I think it looks really beautiful. I'm sure I could have added something like, you know, dusk pink or introduce a new color. But I do try to work with what I have. I do find that sometimes you get kind of more harmonious results when you use a limited color palette. I don't always follow these rules, but sometimes it looks better. But what I especially like about it is that it kind of forces me to mix colors I might not have thought about mixing. And then I discover all kinds of pretty mixtures that are, I really like it when I look at my paintings and I can see all these like really, really interesting new colors. And those appeal to me so much more than when I look at a painting of mine and I can tell exactly, you know, every color and how I got to it, kind of. Like, that's the ultramarine blue and that's the quinacridone rose, and those are the mixtures. And I really like when you start mixing complementary colors, adding a little bit of black, a little bit of white, neutralizing each other. It ends up with giving you kind of these mystery colors that personally I think are just really, really lovely, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, again, trying to build here now some depth, adding some details, a little bit definition to the petals if I can, adding some more darkness to the middle of the flowers. I have to say, this paper, I think I read on the Fabriano website, I couldn't find this paper sold separately. I don't know what it's called. If you have any idea, I have the link to the journal in the description section, but I have no idea which paper this is. They write that it's 70% something and 30% cotton, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. And I have to say, the color flows beautifully on this paper. You can see how it blends. It's just lovely. I would be happy to paint on this paper every day. I really don't feel like I'm missing anything, that it's not 100% cotton, at least not for these kind of loose paintings that don't have a ton of, you know, like more complicated techniques or layers or something like that. Okay, so I stamped the date, I stamped the color, and now I'm just adding a little bit of Lunar Black, just for a little bit of drama, a little bit of contrast. I also went in with one of the Derwent charcoal tinted pencils, which I'm loving. Somehow there's always the right color for what I need. And this time also I went with, I think it was a dark purple color that I chose. I can't remember the name, but yeah, it's from the small set. They have a set of 12 that is just lovely. So yeah, just adding a little bit of detail here, the finishing touches, and I'm done. This was really, really fun to make. It was kind of easygoing, which is, you know, I really appreciate that when the page is not giving me any troubles. And tomorrow, I think we'll be moving on to Bright Rose, I want to say. I think that's the next color. I probably should have done Bright Rose before this one, but I forgot for some reason how violet of a pink it is. So here's the usual close-up, just because all of the colors here are granulating, I think, besides the green gold. And I just love that effect, and it works so well with this paper. So yeah, lovely, lovely. And then some splatters. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.